Hi, this is Garrett with Gwyding Reviews, and it is time for a review of the new St. Vincent album, All Born Screaming. Annie Clark has returned with her seventh studio album. St. Vincent is one of those artists that I really need to listen to more than I have. Everything that I've heard from her has been great, and her last album, Daddy's Home, was one of my favorite albums of 2021. And while I am not entirely familiar with the entirety of St. Vincent's body of work, one thing I do know is that she is a very chameleonic artist who is always trying new sounds and new ideas. Daddy's Home, for example, was a neo-psychedelia album sounding like vintage 1970s rock and pop. With All Born Screaming, Annie goes in a more industrial and noisy direction, and the results are great. Annie combines these off-kilter tones and melodies to create something so cacophonous and chaotic, yet groovy, catchy, and sometimes even beautiful. The various sounds and tones that Annie brings out of her production is mind-bending, and the performances are all charismatic and highly entertaining. The sequencing of this album is also fascinating. The project kicks off with Hell Is Near, which is a really eerie and somber ballad that does a great job at establishing a dark atmosphere. The following song, Reckless, builds on that atmosphere until it expands into this strange yet cathartic explosion of guitars and synths in the last third. After that, you get the 1-2-3 punch of Broken Man, Flea, and Big Time Nothing, all of which are absolute bangers from front to back. And then you have Violent Times, which sounds like this really classy, jazzy big band number that sounds straight out of a James Bond movie. It's grand, epic, and beautiful to listen to. The album does go through a bit of a lull at this point with some less interesting and slightly ill-conceived ideas. Both The Powers Out and So Many Planets are decent tracks, but neither one of them really stand out all that much. Then there's Sweetest Fruit, which has some really cool production choices, but the layered harmonies of the vocals can be grating, and the lyrics of that first verse... Look, I get the sentiment and I understand what she's trying to do, but if you know anything about Sophie and the absolutely tragic way she passed, this verse comes off kind of tasteless. Luckily, the album does end on a great note. The title track is an absolute jam. The first half is almost like a psychedelic ska tune, and the more atmospheric industrial ambient sound of the second half is a very satisfying way to end not only the song, but the album as a whole. All Born Screaming is a great album and further proof that I need to listen to more St. Vincent. If you want some rock and pop with an industrial slant, then you should absolutely give this a shot. It's a blast of a listen and I cannot wait to revisit it throughout the year. 8 out of 10.